I've been thinking. The lottery, it's starting to approach a large number again. And that got me to thinking about people who I know who play the lottery and their financial situations. Typically, they're not great. And I started to wonder why. And that's where I came up with this video. So I'm going to talk about why playing the lottery is terrible for your finances. Now, depending on which state you're in and how large the jackpot is, the lottery tends to be a very big deal in the news. Every so often, the jackpot grows to an astronomical level, with the largest ever award being about $2.02 billion. The excitement around getting that kind of money. It can, of course, be enticing, tempting, and even the most sober-minded individual. Well, they'll be tempted to buy a ticket and join in on the fun. That said, the truth is that playing the lottery is at best a waste of money, and at worst, terrible for your finances. And there are two big reasons for that. One, it promotes the get-rich-quick mindset. I'm sure you've heard of it. And that kind of mindset can be terrible for your finances, even if you get rich. And contrary to what you've heard, most people who've gotten rich, well, they got that way over a long period of slowly gaining skills, living at or below their means, and steadily investing over time. Very few people have gotten rich by signing a lucrative contract to play a sport of some kind, hitting it big on social media, or even getting a lucrative job out of college. And even rarer still is someone who's won the lottery or some other kind of gambling jackpot. Most people who play sports, they play for the love of the game and to stay in shape. You know those folks you see at the Y or at your local gym who are about 40 years old or 30 years old, slightly out of shape, playing their heart off and probably not playing that well? Well, those are individuals that love the game and they're playing anyway. And that's the majority of people who play sports. Basketball, softball, baseball. The people who get the big contracts are the top 0.01% of the population. Maybe even less. Someone someday needs to do a breakdown of that population. I wonder which channel focused on finances can do that sort of thing. Like and subscribe. But most social media, quote-unquote stars, social media stars, they're also in a similar situation. They earn very little for their efforts. And I'm sure you know, most of the money in social media, it goes to the biggest stars with the biggest audiences. Not to mention, very few people get life-changing money out of college. Rather, they work long hours for relatively little pay until they work their way up the corporate ladder. That includes seemingly high-paying jobs. Things like engineers, doctors, lawyers. True, they get more money out of college than your average person, but it's not the kind of life-changing money you hear about when you read about statistics of median incomes for engineers and doctors and lawyers and things of that nature. And on top of that, even fewer people win any amount of money gambling for any reason, whether that's betting on the outcomes of the sporting event or playing other games of chance like the lottery. Those that are fortunate enough to be bestowed with such luck, well, they quite oftentimes, even if they do win, fall for the get-rich-quick fallacy of finances. Meaning they tend to think that all your financial problems will go away if you were to get a lot of money all at once, instead of getting it slowly and methodically over time. Being good with money and finances is a skill like anything else. Some people, yours truly, have that skill naturally. Maybe not. Some people have to earn it after being in the trenches for decades. But earn it you must if you're going to maintain any amount of wealth, whether it's a couple $1,000 to a couple billion. That brings me to my second point. Most people simply don't understand the math behind why playing the lottery and gambling in general is bad. The reason why playing the lottery is so bad for your finances is not just because the odds of you winning a large jackpot are so bad, even the small amounts that you do win over time. And yes, there are people who do win small amounts of money consistently over time. Typically, even those winnings come at a loss if you look at your total outlays of playing the lottery over weeks, months, decades, years. That's gonna take a little bit of math, and that's typically not great for engagement on YouTube, but I'm gonna do it anyway, because I feel as though I am an engaging personality and you're gonna love it. Let me know down in the description down below if you like math in your YouTube videos. But let's compare the expected rates of return from investing $2 daily in the lottery versus investing $2 daily in fractional shares of index funds. Also, $2 daily in bonds. Similarly, $2 a day in certificates of deposits, each over periods of 10 years. So that's $2 daily in the lottery over 10 years, $2 daily in fractional shares of index funds, like the S&P 500, $2 daily in bonds over 10 years, $2 daily in certificates of deposit over a 10-year period. And we're going to calculate the outcome based on typical returns or characteristics of each of the investments. Now, there are a couple of assumptions that need to be said with this kind of analysis. The expected return on lottery investments, that's generally going to be considered to be negative. So if you assume that on average, 50% of the money spent on lottery tickets is lost completely. And that could be optimistic given the odds. Then the return that you would get would essentially amount to a significant amount over time. You also have to give in some assumptions about the returns you get from other investment vehicles, like the S&P 500, for example. Historically, the S&P 500 has yielded, on average, an annual return of about 7, 10%, or in the best of years, 13%. For conservative calculations, we'll use a 7% annual return, an assumption that we can use for bonds. Bonds, in general, are considered safer, but also at the same time give you a less lucrative rate of return. So about 4% we'll consider for this analysis. Similar for CDs, less lucrative than both S&P 500 and bonds, but also considered a lot safer. And we'll also pretend as though this is not a high interest rate environment thanks to inflation. And we'll assume about 1.5% for CDs for our calculation. Our daily investment calculations is going to be about $2 every day. That's going to be an annual investment of 2 times 365 days. Let's skip leap years for the sake of argument, equaling $730. Your investment period is going to be 10 years, and we're going to use the future value formula. Now I'm going to put the future value formula up on the screen. And yeah, like I said, we'll be doing math in this video. Kind of complicated, but no reason to be scared. You see, P is the annual investment. R is the annual interest rate as a decimal, where N is the total number of years. I keep telling you, it's going to be math, and it is kind of scary. But it's not as scary as the losses you'll be having if you play the lottery every day for a decade. And you'll see what I mean in a second here. So calculating the future value of investing $730 annually for 10 years in the S&P 500, in bonds, and in CDs, and comparing it with the expected outcome of the same amount on lottery tickets, you can see that after investing $2 daily for 10 years, the future value of your investment would be approximately $10,086. Again, assuming an annual 7% rate of return. With bonds, that same amount invested over 10 years with a 4% annual return would yield you $8,764. With certificates of deposit, again assuming a 1.5% annual interest rate, returned to you, or a 1.5% yield is the proper term, I believe. And the future value of your investment in CDs would be about $7,813. Now, compare that to the lottery winnings you would have taken. If 50% of the money spent on lottery tickets is lost, and again, conservative, extremely conservative estimate there, the expected loss over 10 years would be $3,650. Considering you do not reinvest winnings and the very slim chances of a significant return. So yeah, investing daily in fractional shares of index funds, especially those tracking the S&P 500, bonds, CDs, they not only preserve your capital, but they can significantly increase it over 10 years through the power of compound interest. On the opposite side, spending the same amount on lottery tickets is expected to result in a considerable loss. Just trying to get this point out there. Indeed, having $2 extra in your pocket and just using it to have a little bit of fun to perhaps win a jackpot that maybe could change your life, that can be a fun thing to do. But as you know, winning the lottery is a very rare event for anybody. And expecting that and doing it again and again is going to result in losses for you rather than winning. I think it's safe to say that if you only have $2 left after a long week's work, and you have an option to put it in, let's say, a lottery ticket, or $2 into a fractional investment in an S&P 500 index fund, into a bond of some kind, or into a certificate of deposit, you should choose the latter and not the former. With the latter, you'll be significantly more well off. With the former, you'll simply have just lost all of your money. And the last thing I'm going to say before I end this video is that with both options, you're better off than if you spend it every day on things like Starbucks, going out to eat every day, or on OnlyFans. So there's lots of things you can do with your money. The best thing to do is invest it. You want to keep in mind also that a goal without a plan is a wish. A goal with a plan and no action is a wish list. I'm Derek West. You're watching Finance Squared. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.